Welcome to Socializing Security, where every week we have a discussion about security, compliance, and beyond.
Our goal is to learn and grow by socializing each week's topic with each other, our guests, and with you.
A quick compliance note, this podcast is meant for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal or regulatory advice.
We're glad you've joined us, and we hope you'll learn along with us. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Socializing Security. We appreciate you tuning in for another week. We've got kind of a special personal topic, I guess, for us to talk about this week. Something big coming up this week, later this week, as we drop this episode. Milou, you're up. Tell us all about it.
I'm hosting a security conference. And I say me, it's also, I'm obviously bringing Brian along with me on this one. I don't really think I ever gave him the option to say no thank you. It was very much like, hey, we're doing this. Also, I'm hopeful that you'll be in person for this because it would be really sad if we had to host our first live in-person event for Socializing Security with only one of us.
Yeah, that would be interesting, but we're still going to make it a hybrid event nonetheless, aren't we?
Absolutely. We are very much pushing virtual registration as well because for us, community is all over the world. I think, Brian, you and I both have been remote heroes for much, if not all of our career, the majority of our careers at this point for sure. So as much as I can speak for both of us in the sense that I think occasionally we do really crave human contact and like doing stuff in person, Brian travels a lot for work and gets a lot of that through his day job. So I think I can definitely speak for myself that as a founder and CEO, I've really been, especially when I kind of like really made the jump full time last year to going all in on my small businesses and really like investing heavily in compliance counsel and doing that no longer as a side hustle, but as my full-time job. Suddenly the relationship dynamic really shifted for me. And it was no longer, oh yeah, like colleagues occasionally where we were doing quarterly kickoffs to suddenly be the consultant and to be the client and the attorney. People don't love to like invite lawyers to events in general. So I started really craving more in-person human connection on the work side, really being, I was going to more active networking groups in Austin specifically. That's where I'm out of, as well as Brian and I had a couple of opportunities last year to actually meet up in person at a couple of conferences like HIMSS as well as RSA. And so those were two examples for me that I was like, I'm really craving this like interaction, this healthy balance, right? I'm always going to be a boss that truly, and a manager and a friend and colleague that always says like, you can work remotely if you need to. I've just personally, I've made a huge pivot where I now have an office. And so I actually like go somewhere that's not home anymore.
Yeah, it's your office. So I want to say I'm never looking forward to working in an office again.
I was there with you. I used to make fun of the RTO.
Yeah. But when it's your own and you get to create it and define what it's like, that's pretty awesome. And we've talked about that. So I guess we'll refer people.
We have another episode on that already.
Yep. We'll refer people to that other episode about your space, but partially using the space as kind of a kickoff to you having that space and building a community area, doing multiple businesses in that space and having just that gathering place is of course really, really cool.
Yeah. We usually never, luckily, Brian and I were the type of podcast buddies here that we actually really never read off of a script. I think you and I did that on 2 episodes at the total beginning. So if you guys really want to go back to the like Socializing Security, like the episodes that probably make me nervous to listen to is maybe the first couple where like we were a little scripted and we were less practiced, I suppose. And I was nervous. I'll be the first to admit I had less public speaking experience than Brian did. So I remember I was quite nervous. Brian's hosted multiple podcasts before this. So I had been a guest on a couple, including his, but it was very different for me when we started this venture over 2 years ago now. So I'm going to read off whatever I came up with as the overview for the conference so that we're all on the same page of what it is to be invited and to be attending hers. So I will say hers, it is for humans. It's not only for women. It's not a women's conference in any regards. It's just a little bit of a play on the fact that there is another security conference at the same time within our network, within our community. Brian and I actually were there together last year. I believe he'll be there this year, which is called HIMSS, which is another incredible security conference. It's the Health Information Management System Security Conference. I had an amazing time there last year. I was really grateful to be for the opportunity. I do really believe that the acronym is incredibly limiting. And I had some really interesting conversations with women that were attending the event that all had the same perspective, that they were like, yeah, the acronym is shit. And I have no problem saying that as a woman. I didn't feel welcome at HIMSS given the fact that it's called HIMSS and I'm a her. So that's a little bit of the play on the background of HERS. But HERS stands for Humans in Equity, Risk, and Security. Given what's going on in the world, especially as a woman in tech, a female founder, I'm often the only woman in the room in the technology space and also in the legal space. So I'm happy to be a champion here for the HERS. Again, for the most part, I want to make this super clear, though. It's an allied event. All are welcome, men, women, whatever, alike. Everybody is welcome to attend. So it's humans. We're really trying to bring this like focus in like a human-led security conference. Has nothing to do with AI necessarily. We're talking about it for one of the last topics, but for the most part, like it's very much about bringing this like human connection and community around. Let's talk about equity, risk, and security, and of course, compliance. All right, so human-led security and thought leadership. We're talking about HERS. So I'll go over and read our event description. So HERS is where security leadership becomes human again. Launching our inaugural event just in time for South by Southwest in Austin, HERS, Humans in Equity, Risk, and Security, is a next-generation human-centered conference designed for leaders navigating the real-world intersection of equity, risk, and security, and of course, compliance. We're hoping to forge community and connection. We've designed an immersive full day of content, community events, and creativity so that we can network, learn, and be inspired together. Recognizing that the most effective security and risk decisions are made by humans who are present, practiced, and supported.
Love it.
Meet y'all at HERS.
Yeah. It's just to kind of underline Milou's point on the naming and all that. It is all very tongue in cheek, and you know, HIMSS is becoming even more funny now that there are certain websites that sell health and beauty type of items by these names.
True.
So it's even more hilarious as it goes there. So I love kind of leaning into that. I will go from HIMSS to HERS, which I'm definitely going to play off of as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm also so grateful that you're doing that. Brian, literally, his travels calendar has been so wild that I haven't even necessarily known where he's at. And every time he joins the studio when he's actually like at his home office, I'm like, good for you. I'm so happy that you're home again because you've been on this crazy travel path. And so the fact that you, on top of your existing travel schedule, you were like, no worries. Yep. I'll come to Austin. We're going to do like a tech run through, which I'm actually super stoked about. Brian and I, for the first part, are probably actually going to like just go shopping for equipment together. And because we're also just fundamentally behind. So when I tell you I'm a little terrified about that, we're going to figure that out. But he's coming to Austin so that we can actually do like a tech run through. He can actually see the space, which is so cool. And then, you know, you get to see Socializing Security's HQ. You're going to HIMSS for work.
Yep.
And then you change your plans specifically to like come to a party and then to come to this conference, like on top of everything else that he's got. His family's being incredibly generous and lending him out. I'm very grateful. Please tell them thank you. I'm super thankful.
For sure. It was pretty close. They were going to come as well, but it just didn't work out because
Next year.
That's how it is. But yeah, I mean, I love the kind of the perspective on humanity, I guess is maybe the way I'll put it, that you've kind of outlined for the event around everything from starting with yoga so that we can really center ourselves, kind of put our bodies into a good state, because I'll tell you right now, the mind body connection is completely out of whack for me, as with travel and all the it's just a busy time of year at work, at home. All those things add up. And despite the fact that I'm, doing all the same things when it comes to bedtime, my sleep is not as good as it should be. Things just snowball at that point. And so not only is it about talking about how we can use our humanity better within the workplace, focusing on things like security, but also being mindful of the fact it's like, okay, well, we gotta start by treating ourselves like humans. And so a lot of the programming isn't like nonstop presentation. It's designed to have that space that, those of us that go to conferences a lot are like, I want to fit in as much as I can, but there's no time to do just hanging out.
I'm going to give a personal anecdote here I think is very important. I happen to be gluten-free and I travel with snacks. I have a bunch of food allergies, and it means that actually like work travel for me is stressful in a different way than a lot of folks because I stress out about what I can and cannot eat because I'm like, "Oh shoot, like I know I'm either bringing snacks or I'm eating after the event." Like it's stuff like that this is something I'm happy to share with of just being like that's really stressful and it actually makes work travel harder for me. If I get invited to a client dinner, I'm the one that looks like I'm pushing around food. It's because I'm generally allergic to it. And so that's tricky. I try to be pretty open with folks so that they know. Brian is aware that I have a lot of food allergies, and I believe this was at HIMSS. Maybe it was at RSA. I'm not exactly sure which event this was at last year, but I do know that there was a conference you and I were at where Brian wasn't able to step away from booth duties and doing his day job, which he's incredible at. Also, super fun last year to actually just like go and be like basically a cheerleader in the back row of his presentations. I'm not sure he'll invite me to another one after that, but Brian, exhausted. You could just tell, you know, when you see a friend that you're like, you look like you could use a snack. Ryan was aware that I have said snack pack and was like, I swear to God, girl, if you have gluten-free Oreos in your backpack, I need them. I was like, I got you. I got you. I've always been that way. I literally was somebody who packed a bag. Like as a small child, I would ask my mom, like, who was going, how many friends, also how many snacks we would need. I was always bringing things for other people.
Yeah.
Also, because I don't love to share my snacks. So I always have enough to share. And
Yeah.
so, yes, a lot of the programming for this even event has been incredible. We really have kind of like three main tenets that we're trying to like program around: equity, risk, and security. And I feel pretty comfortable that we've done that. The rest of it, though, is I go to many conferences. I feel happy when I walk away with connections. I don't love when I feel like I just walked away with a bunch of business cards because at the end of the day, I rarely remember their names later. And I feel terrible saying that. But like, I do have a tool that I use specifically that helps me keep track of folks, of where I met them and all that kind of stuff. But if I'm not active about it, I'll be like, oh, I met this person. Like I can visualize them and then I'm like, what was their name? And that's tough. And so I would like to get away from that. And so I'm really hopeful that anybody that's joining, incredible if y'all are coming in person. Seriously, if y'all are in Austin area and you have time to come on Friday, the 13th of March, please do come. Registration is online and open. I will say, otherwise we are doing virtual. We've opened that up. There's not necessarily a limitation for that. So we're going to see. I would love to have y'all come, even if that's, you can join for an hour, come in and drop in, ask some questions, like interact with the content. That would mean the world to both Brian and I.
Yeah, definitely. And hybrid events aren't easy. So all we ask for is a lot of forgiveness in however this may go down.
It's going to be real bumpy.
But yeah, I mean,
My expectations are low, so.
But that's part of the fun. Like, it's a little bit of a state of our pants. We've tested all the pieces kind of individually, bits and pieces, but never kind of all together at once. So it's definitely something that, you know, if you want to watch us explode and flame out, it's a good reason to come too, I guess.
I want to make sure. Yeah, I think the thing is for me is like there's already like a lot of fun people that are going to be in the room that I know that I feel quite comfortable with. Like my family is showing up in the best way that they can, you know what I mean? And like that already means so much. My niece is going to be there, so she's already, you know, she already wants her like custom swag and all that stuff. She's 6, so that's going to be real interesting. So if you suddenly hear somebody in the background that sounds quite young, it's probably her. So she's going to be there. She wants to participate. It's her spring break. And I love that she's decided on spring break with Oma that she wants to come and hang out at my security conference. I think that means the world to me.
Yeah.
Again, like I have a couple of team members that have joined Taroteco, the venture that is kind of supporting my small businesses like Compliance Council. And so they're going to be showing up and I'm really excited for y'all to get to interact with them in different ways too. If you get to meet them in person, it means the world to me that I have team members now. It's not just me, myself, and I. So yeah, let's talk about the actual like event a little bit. Brian already queued it up. We have my Pilates instructor, Catherine. She's incredible. She is both Pilates and yoga. And so she's going to do a mat yoga kind of stretch session to just start things off. I've seen that before in conferences. I feel like we've moved away from that a good amount. Again, this is going to be, I have no clue how many folks are going to show up for yoga, but if you do want to come in person for yoga, please bring your mat. I'm also kind of curious if we put this one online too. And if you guys want to virtually stream and do the yoga session with us, like I'm paying for the time regardless. So like, why not get your yoga on with us? So we're going to figure that out logistically, but Catherine is coming. So she is a friend of mine. I work out with her at least once a week. And She's coming. She actually is also a business owner herself. She's a realtor in downtown Austin. She's incredible. So Catherine is coming. She'll be doing yoga. So we're starting off with just grounding the human
Yeah.
with Catherine. Then we'll roll into just like a light breakfast as kind of for the folks that maybe don't want to show up for the first workout session and they want to just get checked in and they want to just kind of like join us before we pick up. Our main programming really starts around 9:45 Central Time. And I did that also intentionally. My brain isn't super awake before 10 a.m. Central. I think Brian is aware of that. We've done a couple of recordings like Friday mornings that we've tried, and I've been like, I'm not awake yet. So 9:45 is really when the actual like true I guess more educational content will be starting. We will be streaming live starting around 8:30.
Yeah. So the chance for people to just kind of sit and watch people have breakfast after doing yoga. I don't know. Sometimes hybrid events make me laugh. But I love the idea of streaming the yoga piece.
We could just have somebody, maybe we'll just have somebody who's like, we'll just ask somebody. Just honestly, we just ask my dad, Paul, to just like sit in front of the speaker and just answer questions. That could be really compelling, actually.
Should do the Ron Swanson sitting, sipping scotch in front of the fireplace for hours on end. Just your dad sitting there, sipping on coffee,
just
answering questions.
Paul Lammers, yep. Honestly, he's a vibe. My mom is as well. Ernestine's going to be there too. So they're both really supportive. My dad literally has all of my swag and wears it more than I think his regular clothes these days. He's a real proud parent. It's really cute.
That's awesome.
So yeah, then we'll roll into the first like main session that we're going to be working in is, I think I've mentioned this before. We've had Kim Williams on the podcast before.
Mm-hmm.
So Kimberly Williams is actually a former client of mine, and she has built out her own startup as well, the Fair Path Project. And she's actually the chief advocate for the End Workplace Psychological Abuse movement. We at Socializing Security are actually one of the corporate sponsors of this movement. So if you go to End Workplace Abuse, you'll see Socializing Security's logo there. So we're actually a proud sponsor. So is Compliance Council and some of my other ventures as well. Kim and I have become friends, which is really cool to say that she's a former client who now actually has her own startup and I get to support her. I think y'all might eventually see her within the Compliance Council fold as well. So I'm so grateful that she's introduced me to Jean Holloway as well. So we're going to be chatting with a couple of HR folks. So I, as a compliance professional, generally try to stay away from HR. As an attorney, I'm not so lucky. This is where we're kind of we're going to talk about the End Workplace Abuse movement and just really talking about how humans, equity, and how that kind of ties into workplace abuse.
Yeah, I love that episode because again, it is centering on people and the fact that unless you're truly just by yourself working, which is pretty much nobody, you're working with other humans at some level. And how do we treat them? How do we ensure that they're not getting burnt out, to make sure that, microaggressions aren't coming out? We're all guilty of it at some point in our lives, no matter how aware of the concepts we are. And so to be able to have kind of that safe space to talk about it, looking people in the eye, not just through a screen, but actually, sitting on a couch or around a table or however we end up setting that all up, to be able to have that conversation and say, hey, it's important that we're not just all equals, but we have equity in whatever we're doing together, and that, everybody has that voice and feels like they deserve to have that voice. I don't know. It's a great place to start the actual learning aspect.
So too. I'm excited for this one because this one is so near and dear to my heart, because ultimately I got involved in the End Workplace Abuse movement when I basically got wrongfully terminated and ended up having to figure that out. And I'm saying this as somebody, I've never even thought that was even possible for me. And it happened. And then I was suddenly like, well, I guess I'm going to go full time on my own things, because why not? And so, like, these are things that are really, really near and dear to my heart. And I'm very grateful for the relationship I had with Kim. She and I were already working together, and she very quickly was like, hey, why don't you also get involved in the End Workplace Abuse movement? And literally, like, that has been such an incredible honor to be involved in that and to, get to support her for her launch event in Q4 last year in December, I flew out to DC and got to see her at her first corporate event. So cool. I think she and I are going to continue to do events together, whether that's in, on Capitol Hill or in Austin at Tarote. Like, I'm so grateful for the relationship. And she found me on LinkedIn, y'all. Like, I need to remember everybody that, like, ultimately my first client really for Compliance Council was like because somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn. So connect with all of these humans. I think that's the part that, as I'm saying, even for those that are going to be joining virtually, and I really hope y'all do, please reach out to all of these people on LinkedIn afterwards, because that's always some of the most powerful thing of like, I've made some really great connections actually, even on like virtual conferences where I've reached out to the panelists being like, hey, I really love what you said in this thing, and that was super powerful to me. Would you want to have a coffee chat? And I've made truly friends for the podcast that way. I've also just like made clients in that way as well. So please benefit from us sharing our contact information on this as well. So I know that Jean, Kim, Brian, myself, and any of the other speakers that we're having, I think for this one specifically, we're really going to have somebody who was a whistleblower. We're going to have somebody who did sue their boss. We're going to have somebody who is a psychologist. We're also going to have an HR professional. And then we're going to have Brian moderating the whole thing.
Trying to herd the cats, as I always end up doing.
He's very good at that.
Yes, I guess so, because people keep asking me to do it. Yeah, so one thing that you kind of touched on that I know was early on in our conversations around this, which was, part of what I've always enjoyed at conferences is the community aspect of things. Anybody who's known me previously in my career knows, I was a big community development person, doing it just kind of part-time. Like I was enjoying creating a community as kind of a side thing. And the ability to go up and talk to a speaker at a giant conference sometimes isn't the easiest thing to do. And that's more or less the main reason I go to most sessions at a conference anymore, is because like that's the person I want to go talk to. So I'm going to go to their session and try to catch them either before or after the presentation. You've built in the time.
So hard though.
Yeah. And you've built in the time purposefully around being able to allow the people to connect. Like, we're going to put you all in a room for the day and build in the time that is completely unstructured so that that kind of thing can happen, which, it's an interesting balance when you have to build that in, because it means you've got less content. There's at least one less session that we can't pull off because of that built-in time. And you did some innovative stuff, which I guess kind of takes us to the next topic around risk, as we work through the words in the word hers, to be able to allow people to kind of work together to kind of be more connected around, topics that interest them.
This is the session I'm most excited about, and also think technically it's going to be a mess. So if we pull this off, I'm going to be really proud of us. But yes, for the Risk Summit, we're doing a practicum, and I think this is really important because this is some of the most value I've seen in my client interactions as their fractional chief compliance officer, their risk officer, and really as their like strategic partner here when we're talking about risk management and building that out in a way that actually goes beyond merely checking the box and just having some static risk register that the executive team has literally never looked at and somehow passes every audit. We don't do that at Compliance Council. So this is really where Compliance Council is going to be showing up here, and I'm going to be kind of walking us through a tabletop exercise. I think for those of us in the security space, we're familiar with those for business continuity and disaster recovery. I end up doing this quite often with my clients for risk. And the reason I call this a risk summit, I'm fortunate these slides have already been built, so this is easy one for me to prepare for, but I'm most curious about how this is going to go from a technology perspective, because I'll explain my vision and we'll see. We'll probably do a reflections episode and we'll see how close we got. But so my vision is I'm going to be doing like a 10-minute overview of talking about the ISO 31000 risk management framework. And I'm coming really from as an education perspective of how I would talk to the attendees, whether in the room or virtually, about a risk summit. And let's talk about risk management and what that means. It does not just mean something in a GRC tool or a spreadsheet that nobody's ever seen, because that is not effective risk management. It is a top-down approach. We're going to do this. So I'm going to give this kind of overview as the risk officer. I'll wear that hat today. And we're going to talk about risk management at a high level. And then we're actually going to do this in practice. And to me, this is where I've seen the most effective leaps and bounds of executive teams and leadership teams actually start to understand how to treat and score risks within their organization for their individual risk profile. It's one thing for me to just send slides. It's a very different thing when we actually start scoring risks together, and we do this truly through the actual ISO framework. So I hope that we're all going to walk away with understanding what that framework is, of how we tie likelihood and impact together to actually create a risk score. And then we understand what mitigation is. We understand like what actually risk management is in practice, so that anybody that attends can hopefully go to their leadership team or their community, their work environment, and start to put that into practice of what that means when compliance rocks up and is like, time for our annual risk review. You guys will all be ready to be like, let's go. We know everything. And it's not that hard. The thing that makes risk management hard is it's different for every single company and the situations are different. So to highlight that, I have voluntold some of my friends that they are going to be joining as true subject matter experts in their fields. We're going to be coming up with individual case studies for them to walk through within these groups. So the way I'm envisioning is, I think we have 5. We'll see if we make it through all 5. I have no idea how this is going to go on timing, but the intention is we're going to have about 10 minutes for each risk scenario. So Brian is going to kick us off. I picked him as the guinea pig on purpose because
Naturally.
I think he will handle it very gracefully when the breakout rooms inevitably fail. So we're going to talk about risk management, and then I'm going to, as the risk officer, I'm just going to have my experts come in. And they're going to talk to you all, ideally those listening in, whether again, virtually or in person. We're going to be doing this in community fashion, so that the intention is that somebody like Brian will queue up the case study, walk us through the risk, and then we're going to split out, and probably for like 8 to 10 minutes in breakout rooms or individual sessions, we're going to hope that the teams that we can get together are going to just talk about how they're going to treat the risk. How are they going to score it? Are they going to do this in a quantitative approach? We're just actually going to walk through risk management in practice. So you're each going to do ideally 4 or 5 risk assessments, which to me would have been such huge training if somebody had did that with me when I started my career. And so I'm hopeful that we can do this together. We're going to pick 0-day incidents, data center outage, an HR security incident. I have a really great one for this. We're going to have to see if we can do this. But this is the like worst nightmare scenario. We're going to do a CEO phishing scam, as well as then just what happens when a startup just runs out of cash. So those are the kind of like 5 that I have different experts, some of which I haven't even told them they're on this list yet. So that's where we're at from a planning perspective. But I'm super excited about this one.
Yeah, I'm too. I mean, anything that makes it interactive is gonna definitely be a good time for everybody, I hope. And even for us introverts that get forced into talking to other people when maybe we just want to sit there and listen, we'll
You can also just sit there and listen, but just don't let one person like take over the whole breakout room. Nobody likes that.
No, absolutely not.
I say that as I'm usually the person that.
I can be that person sometimes too. If I know the topic well enough and am frustrated enough by the lack of movement, I will take over and herd the cats. Because unfortunately, that's just kind of my nature, I guess. So yeah, really an opportunity for people to work together to get to know each other. I mean, we're naturally going to interact with one another and talk about our experiences, and we'll be like, oh, hey, you did that thing. I've done something similar, which I think leads very nicely into lunchtime, which is always everybody's favorite part of a conference, right? Conference
Yes,
food?
absolutely. Yes. Well, okay. We're doing, for those of you that have known me for a long time, I'm a big fangirl of Freebirds. So if you've never had Freebirds and you're coming in person, you're probably getting Freebirds for lunch. It is a Texas-based competitor to a Chipotle. So we're doing it Tex-Mex style. It'll be like burrito bowls. They have a bunch of allergy stuff. They're super allergy friendly. So that's another reason why we chose them, so that they can accommodate vegetarian, gluten-free, all that kind of stuff. So they're usually a cheat code for me. And so we're going to do free. I've been offered jobs at multiple Freebirds within Texas because I'm a super fan. So maybe one day they'll sponsor the podcast. So yes, we are most likely, I don't want to totally announce this yet, but we are definitely planning some creativity within lunch. I'm hopeful that one of my very cool friends is going to be joining us for lunch, and she might be painting live, which is very cool. And that'll actually be something that will actually do well virtually. So you all that are listening in can actually join us and do your lunch and learn, and actually just like eat your lunch. You can turn your cameras off. You do whatever you want. But if you guys actually want to just like listen to somebody like Ash maybe talk about her work. And again, if she's not available for the event, we're gonna bring her on at some point because you're gonna see her artwork because it's stunning. And she is super talented and she cares a lot about humanity. And so she has a nonprofit as well. She works very closely with the foster community in Austin. So she actually teaches foster kids how to paint. She's an incredible human being. Either way, Ash Almonte, y'all need to follow her. She's incredible. Whether she's able to attend on this one or a future one, I cannot wait to introduce y'all to her. She is an incredible human being who happens to just be a friend now, which is like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Making friends, having fun. That's what it's all about.
That's kind of the whole point.
Yeah.
It's kind of the whole point.
So that brings us to security specifically, which you've got a couple of really interesting topics here that I think we're going to tackle as actual content for you all, whether you attend the conference or not. Some content we'll be able to repurpose for the podcast and do our first real live show, I think. We keep talking about just going live on one of these episode recordings, but we never do.
So do it at an event in front of an audience.
We're just going to throw the audience right in front of our faces. Not that we haven't done it in person live like that before, but this is going to be people
That's
actually
true. We did
staring
it,
at
and
us.
you blitzed me on that one. So
No.
RSA, Brian did not give me a heads up. So I was really nervous. This, I have had plenty of preparation time, I think. I'm still going to be nervous. So
yeah, people weren't really staring at us when we did that before. We were just kind of in a hallway and people just kept passing by.
It's kind of like a fishbowl thing. It was weird.
It was, but at the same time, it was one of those feeling lonely in a giant city type of a thing. Like people were all around us, but nobody was really paying attention to us. This one, people will be sitting there watching us the whole time.
Friends.
But they will be our friends by halfway through the day.
They're going to be Brian's friends.
Halfway through the day, they'll be our friends.
For sure. That's the benefit of, for folks that have actually hopefully been there, the intention of the content is also one, I did this in purpose to make it a little bit easier for Brian and I to put ourselves out there in a different way. But I will say after the last End Workplace Abuse movement event I went to, people were in tears. And so I'm hopeful that we're not there, but maybe we will be. And again, this is supposed to be a community event. Everything, like people are welcome and we're going to be respectful and kind to one another at this event. That matters a lot to me. But the security in practice part, this is like our thing together. And so I'm, again, super grateful that Brian is actually like coming out and we're going to get to try to do this in person. I think Brian and I are both going to handle this gracefully, whether we succeed or fail. I think we'll be the first to be like, hey, next year we're doing this differently and we'll fit. I'm sure Brian's going to give me a whole list. I'm looking forward to the postmortem after this. I cannot wait for the spreadsheet. I'm looking forward to it. There will be a lot of edits and notes, but I think this is really something that Brian and I have been doing this podcast for 2 years. It's a labor of love, y'all. We do everything ourselves, the two of us. We're now getting to the point that we're like, oh, we should probably bring somebody in to help us edit. Like, we're a little too busy. Like, 2 years of doing this is a huge deal. And for us to then be like, hey, let's actually do this with other folks with the intention that Brian and I would like to do this for other companies and at other conferences. We're hopeful that it's not just at the HERS conference. I'm ready to be, I'll be speaking at RSA because of the freaking podcast. Like, I'm so grateful the doors that this opportunity has opened, as much as like, we'll say this is a hobby, like things are happening. And I'm sure Brian can speak to his personal experience as well on his side that the effort is, the juice is definitely worth the squeeze on this one for sure. As much as sometimes when it's 2 a.m. and I'm editing the podcast, I'm like, why have I overcommitted? I'm looking forward to potentially outsourcing some things in 2026 for the podcast. But you and I are coming up with 2 different sessions. One of them we can definitely announce today. The other one, we'll keep it as a surprise for y'all when you join online, or even better if you want to come in person. But, I've made some friends on TikTok. And this, I think, is great for Brian because this pushes his comfort zone too. Because in terms of content creators, the way that Brian and I both operate in the space, we're actually wildly different as content creators. We happen to have a really fun podcast together, but our privacy practices are different. Our risk tolerance is totally different. I literally lately have been like I am posting things that I also a couple years ago would have been like, no chance. And I'm like, you know what? Why not? Like, why not? Perspectives changed. Opinions are allowed to change. So I'm very grateful. I've found this really niche community of other lawyers that are content creators, either on the side or full time. And we've become friends because I just keep posting and like basically don't really give them the opportunity not to be my friend, of just being like, hey, I see you. We're all cool. What's been so cool about it is any of them that I asked, even those that might be coming onto future episodes on the podcast or at hers next year, they were all like, heck yes. When is it? We'll be there, whatever. Like, how can we support you on this? It's been such a supportive community of small content creators that's been super fun. We all happen to be lawyers. And the amount of time I have been told by other attorneys that because they're a lawyer, they can't post content is like the wildest thing. And so I'm super curious to hear how this one goes. Brian gets to moderate this one. So he's going to be surrounded by attorneys. I think for the most part, they're actually all female lawyers, which again is pretty cool for hers.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been an interesting set of cats I've never heard of before, but I'm up for the challenge. I mean, I've dealt with teenagers en masse before, so I could probably handle it. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting topic, and it's one that, again, in the nature of learning along with all of you, I'm looking forward to learning a lot of that kind of stuff, because I've been a content creator in the past. I mean, my job more or less is content creation.
We're literally on a podcast right now.
I've done it completely for myself, I should say, putting myself out there more as an individual than I do nowadays. Having done podcasts for work, podcasts for myself, but also blogging and photography. I haven't done a lot on that front, but I do enjoy it thoroughly.
Oh, you're getting your headshots taken on the same day. Great time to tell you that. Live on the podcast. After yoga, obviously.
Naturally.
Obviously, after yoga.
Of course. Why wouldn't it be? Yeah, so many jokes there, but I'm gonna hold off on any of those. But yeah, I mean, just to have that opportunity to be with a bunch of people who are kind of on both ends of that spectrum, like the people that are generally very, very conservative, and I know how bad things can go. I won't do those things, in the lawyer side, to the content creators who are constantly putting themselves out there, constantly creating new content, and potentially hurting their own privacy, I guess. Like, I don't know how else to say that, but
or their risk.
Their risk. I mean, all these things go into that, because you're putting yourself out there. So even your humanity is at risk when you put yourself on the internet these days. But to hear how they handle that, being on both ends of that spectrum, I think is going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And I'm also just flattered that somehow I made friends on TikTok. So the time that I've spent, I guess, I don't know, posting silly videos and interacting on TikTok lives is totally worth it, because I've actually forged some connections that are actually like business connections, which is, again, wild. I'm not on a platform such as TikTok for like lead generation necessarily. For me, it's not really a business thing. It's just like a fun creative outlet. And it's been really cool of like a new way to interact with them. You know, they're the first, like in my friends category on my feed, like anytime they're posting, I'm like, heck yes, like we're supporting, like happens to be like women supporting women, which I think is also just kind of part of hers, of just being like, hey, I see you, whether that's Alex is posting a video on pop culture versus Cameron is talking about what it's like to be an attorney who's not technical, who's going to be starting her own, like she's launching a startup built for humans to learn about legal things. Like the stuff that these individuals are doing is so freaking cool. And so like, again, I'm so excited. There's another compliance attorney coming on the podcast. This is also the wildest thing. I've been the only lawyer on the freaking podcast. I don't think we've ever meant to do that. I don't think, from my understanding, I can't remember necessarily if we've had another JD. I don't think we have.
I don't think so, but we've definitely talked about it a lot.
I've definitely been put in roles where I'm like, hi, again, regulatory compliant, not your lawyer, happen to be a lawyer, but we actually are bringing other lawyers onto the podcast. And I think for me, this is a really fun way to actually bridge how Cyber Council, Compliance Council, Socializing Security, how we all kind of work together. So I'm looking forward to Cyber Council also kind of showing up in this way of being like, hey, that's my law firm, y'all, but like happen to be a lawyer. I usually don't introduce that to most people. I'm never like, hi, I'm an attorney. That's usually the last thing people find out about me later. They're like, wait, can you also do our contracts? And I'm like, yes. So I think those are the things. And then, yeah, the last session, Brian and I are still actively workshopping in the way that we do. We're trying to do a blended. So the first session for Socializing Security and the security focus of the conference, one of them is going to be Brian and I together truly as co-hosts with a virtual team in whatever platform we're deciding to do this, most likely Riverside, I would assume. So We're going to be doing that in kind of a traditional, that'll be kind of one thing. And then we're trying to flex and go a different way of trying to actually do a true in-person session with folks in the room for the last session. And then ideally we're going to a music festival after that. So that's the HERS conference.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be an experience no matter what. It's going to be an experience. So we'll hopefully see a lot of you there, or some of you there.
No, we're definitely going to see all of you virtually for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Those of you that happen to be in Austin, especially that y'all are coming for South by Southwest, please do consider coming. We're out close to Lake Travis, so we're not downtown. So if for those of you that are familiar with the Austin area, if you know where Lake Travis is, it connects, there's a dam called Mansfield Dam, and it connects Lake Austin to Lake Travis. To me, this is kind of, I moved to Austin to be closer to family and to be at the lake. So for those of y'all that know me, I'm happy to come downtown and meet y'all. But for me, I spend most of my weekends on the boat, on the water. So my workspace is out that way. So we're off of 620. That's where we're going to be. Y'all are going to be able to find me later. So that's exciting and terrifying from a risk perspective, but whatever. I already share so much on the internet. So y'all are going to know where Taroteco is, my latest venture. That's my startup accelerator here for Compliance Council, Cyber Council, Socializing Security, and some of the other ventures that I have. So I'm super excited to introduce y'all to Taroteco as well as to welcome you to the HERS conference.
Cool. You want to leave them with the kind of day and time aspect of it that they can, and maybe where they can look for more information?
Yes, I love this. Thank you so much for thinking the thoughtful question. So we are using a new platform for me that's called Luma. So the actual event registrations is in a software startup called Luma, Luma. If you follow us on LinkedIn, Brian and I will both actively be posting the registration links there, and we'll definitely make sure that they're in the show notes for this episode as well. So have fun with us. And this hopefully will be the start of a hopefully annual event. I would like to continue HERS in the future, but it is going to be Friday, March 13th online. Right now, I think it's Teams, but it might turn into Zoom. Brandon and I are going to figure that later. So we might still be updating the actual online registration component of where y'all are actually going to meet us for the platform, but trust that you're going to hear from us pretty regularly as you kind of sign up for the event. So please do reach out to us. Follow us on LinkedIn. That's where Taroteco, Torot, is posting about this as well. Compliance Council, pretty much any of the ventures that you might be associated with socializing security and familiar with. We should all be posting about HERS, and we're really looking forward to bringing humans, equity, risk, and security online.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to it. We will post this the week of, so look for that by the end of this. Do it right away when you hear this.
Yes, basically. Lastly, as my final point here, happy International Women's Day. This event it's going to be in Women's History Month. That's another reason why we chose March for HERS. March 8th is International Women's Day.
Time is difficult when you do podcasts.
It's got to wrap up. This episode is way too long. Anyways, but yes, happy International Women's Day. Happy Women's History Month from all of us here at Socializing Security. Thanks for socializing with us, and we'll see y'all at HERS.
Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Socializing Security. We hope you learned a thing or two with us.
If you'd like to continue socializing with us on this topic or have feedback, we'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn or social media. Just search for Socializing Security. Or you can email us at info@socializingsecurity.com.
Until next time, stay social and stay secure.